All right, we've got to talk about Dallas,
Yes.
which it's really bad. It's really bad in Dallas. The Mavericks on Saturday got a brief reprieve from all the backlash surrounding the Doncic deal when they beat Houston. That was a pretty cool moment. Outside the arena, it was
Bedlam.
It was bedlam. Protest. There was a casket, a lot of signs, whole mess of things. Inside, AD goes for 26 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks. And for a moment, you could see what Nico Harrison and the Mavericks were hoping for with this deal, winning behind defense. The next day, we learned that Davis has another groin injury, and he will likely be out for at least the next month, maybe even longer. The Mavericks are not offering any new information as we record this on Tuesday. On Monday, the Mavs lost to Sacramento. Daniel Gafford went down with a knee injury in that game. That did not look good. Mavs owner Patrick Dumont was roundly booed when he was taking his seat. Several fans were ejected for holding signs calling for the firing of Nico Harrison. It's getting ugly down there in Big D.
The list isn't even done yet.
Wait, please add.
Well, Dumont gave an interview.
Oh, I was going to get
to the Dallas Morning News.
I was going to get to that.
Which
All
we
right.
can get to.
Yeah.
And not only did they eject several fans, they had a fan that was on the Jumbotron with a microphone singing in one of these like fan sing-along things. And obviously someone handed him that microphone. And several times the Jumbotron went to him and he mouthed fire Nico.
Yes. And he got tossed. He was one of the fans that got tossed on Monday.
But I mean, that's embarrassing.
Tossing fans is just embarrassing.
That they specifically hadn't shown fans on the Jumbotron since this trade went down.
Yeah.
He was literally the first fan they showed on the Jumbotron, and he says fire Nico
This is going to get ugly. It already is ugly, but it's going to get uglier because now you've got Gafford, and that injury didn't look good. Hopefully it's not as bad as it looked in that moment. But even if he's out for any amount of time, they've got like a two-way player as the only guy that can man the front court. It's now the Kyrie Irving show, out there. And that's not going to beat anybody in the Western Conference. This team is in real danger of slipping out of the play-in and missing the playoffs altogether, which would be a catastrophe for this team. But let's talk about the comments made by Patrick Dumont, who is the governor of this team, part of the Adelson family that bought the team from Mark Cuban. He did give an interview with the Dallas Morning News. I want to play some of the clips from that interview.
So in my mind, the way teams win is by focus, by having the right character, by having the right culture, and having the right dedication to work as hard as possible to create a championship winning outcome. And if you're not doing that, you're going to lose. And if you look at the greats in the league, the people you and I grew up with, Jordan, Bird, Magic, Kobe, Shaq, they worked really hard every day with a singular focus to win. And if you don't have that, then it doesn't work. And if you don't have that, you shouldn't be part of the Dallas Mavericks. That's who we want. I'm unwavering on this. The entire organization knows this. This is how I operate outside of basketball. This is the only way to be competitive and win. If you want to take a vacation, don't do it with us.
So I am all for transparency with ownership. I do like it when GMs come out and talk and explain their decision-making. Owners come out and talk and explain their decision-making. And I think with a deal and a player of this magnitude, it was important at an ownership level for Patrick Dumont or someone from the Adelson family to talk about what went into this deal. But my God, that was not a good explanation. Like that we're once again back to calling Luka fat and lazy. That's part of it. But two things stuck out from the comments there. One, he lumps Shaq
I can't
in with Jordan, Kobe, Magic, and Bird as hard workers.
Yeah.
I'm sure Shaq will address this on Thursday. Shaq has been very open during his career. He was not the hardest of workers. In fact, he regrets some of that during his time in the NBA. He also omits the greatest Maverick of all time. He leaves Dirk Nowitzki off the list. Like, you're talking about the guys you want to build a franchise around. How about the guy that played 21 seasons?
With a statue outside.
With a statue outside. And it was hard to see with all the fans protesting and cursing your name.
It was hidden. What can he do? It was hidden.
What is happening there? Like, either I mean, the best case scenario, he came into that interview entirely unprepared, which is shocking if he did. But to make those kind of gaffes, and then on top of it all, to try to make you believe that the guy that just dragged your team to the finals, that took a decent team that made a bunch of changes midseason and had them at 12-5 during the Western Conference playoffs, that wasn't the guy, that's not the guy to lead you into the future. And Anthony Davis is a wild interview. This basketball season, when your favorite stars score buckets, we're alley-ooping you an opportunity to win money from watching sports with Underdog. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? You can with Underdog. To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats. For example, points, assists, rebounds, and more. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 with just your hoops knowledge. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at the Lakers schedule and picking Luka Doncic, that's right, Luka Doncic, the Laker, higher than 22 points, and LeBron James, higher than 7 assists. Download the Underdog app and sign up now using the promo code OPENFLOOR to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with the promo code OPENFLOOR. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon the first deposit. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
And look, by the way, the record with Luka Doncic up until he got hurt around Christmas was excellent. That's the thing. It's not just that he led you to the finals in June. It's that he actually was playing well all fall. So again, it's just sort of mind-boggling. The Patrick Dumont thing is interesting because it's a good point you make. We do want these guys to talk. And I actually really appreciated they talked to the local paper. Yeah. That doesn't happen as much anymore as we would like. So I thought that was a really good thing. So I want to be careful because you don't want to start jumping on these guys every time they open their mouths, because the other option is just to be Jim Dolan or Knicks management in general, who never explain anything. But it did show just sort of a lack of basketball knowledge, because if you have been around the NBA, you know how hard Shaq did or didn't work, right? So that to me was sort of the most telling quote for the reason of it showed that you are not a basketball guy, which by the way is fine. These teams are investments, obviously. Not every owner.
Well, they look at it as an investment. Look, they've made it clear, like even when Cuban sold the team, this is now a real estate property, right? 100%. Like they're hoping that the gambling laws in Texas change so that they can build a giant casino resort somewhere in the Dallas area and put the Mavericks right in the middle of it.
So maybe the thing you say if you're being prepped for that interview is, look, I think I hired the right guy in Nico, which he did back Nico through the interview. He says that this is the right thing to do, and we're going to go with the guys I hired. That's all you can do is ask me to be loyal to the guys I hired. That's the correct answer if you don't know enough about the NBA to say, actually, the hardest working example I can come up with is Shaq. So it just, that was disappointing.
Come up with Shaq. I'm not sure what I'm more blown away by. Coming up with Shaq or omitting Dirk.
But this goes back, this whole thing then goes back to why did you trade Luka in the first place? You're betting against the next 10 years of Luka Doncic. Why did you make a deal where you only talked to the Lakers and therefore didn't get back as many assets as you could have? And Anthony Davis being the guy that you wanted is a bit of a question in and of itself, because I agree that if he is a healthy player, he can possibly give you in this year, next year, a great window to win a championship. But he is not consistently a healthy player. No. The fact that he got hurt the other night was not a fluke. And I think that's the thing that's a little bit got Dallas fans just even more up in arms. Yes, it's a little bit of a fluke that it happened the first night that he was playing, but it's not a fluke overall. In fact, if you look at the last span of games since Anthony Davis was with the Lakers and Luka Doncic was with the Mavericks, Luka has played a higher percentage of his games than AD has. And AD's only getting older and only is older. So making this deal, being so singularly focused on Anthony Davis, I'm not even going to talk to anyone else. Being so singularly focused on Anthony Davis, I'm willing to leave that other number 1 pick on the ground because that's what the Lakers are going to give us, and they're not giving us that pick, and I want AD no matter what. That is where the judgment, to me, I really have to question. I like Nico. You like Nico. We've both been around him for so long, way before he took this job. You and I knew him very well from his dealings and work with Nike and Kobe. This is the part that continues not to make sense to me. I would never have traded Luka Doncic, even if everything that Patrick Dumont and Nico and all the rumors and all the back little whatever we have heard is true. Even with all of that, I never would have traded Luka. But to trade him in this way for this player at this time is the thing that confounds me even more than trading him in the first place.
And everybody's been saying, like, AD's now been healthy for 2 consecutive seasons. Well, no, it's only 1 now. Because last year was the healthy season.
Yes.
This year, we haven't even gotten to the All-Star break with him suffering a major injury. An injury that could potentially keep him out. I don't want to even speculate because we don't know, but the reporting is at least a month. I think it is troublesome that we've not heard an update from the Mavericks up until this point. I thought it was wild that Jason Kidd didn't come out after the Kings loss and speak to reporters.
I have not heard of that.
That's very rare in the NBA.
I mean, especially from Jason, who's sort of like, yeah, I'll talk to, he's not media unfriendly. He's been in the media. The whole thing is such a mess. And I really just wonder again what you were thinking betting on a guy who is obviously a tremendous, tremendous talent, but who is only getting older. And you and I have been talking about this the entire season since I joined you on this podcast. Age is not nothing in the NBA. And I know that we're so used to now. LeBron's 40. Kevin Durant, those guys are exceptions. It's still true that in your 30s, you are then in the back half of your career, and especially if you've been injury prone, if you're a bigger guy, all of the things we're seeing. Joel Embiid just told Lisa Salters that he might need another surgery again. Another
wild quote.
Right?
We don't have time to get into that,
right?
but that's another.
But I'm just saying
again.
that like guys in their 20s are different from guys in their 30s.
Yeah.
And if you are backing the upside of an injury history guy in his 30s, that is a real choice. And I'm still confused that they made it.
You've got a 3-year window with Anthony Davis.
Well, no, because you don't have this year anymore.
Right,
Because
no, I'm
you're
saying
sitting
this
here,
year's blown up. Like,
you're
I'm saying
sitting
this
here and
starts too.
saying, oh, it could be a month. That concerns me. That's half of their remaining season.
Yeah.
Derek Lively's not coming back until maybe the playoffs. I mean, this is done.
Yeah.
I can't see a path for them to have success in the playoffs at this point.
Yeah.
Because they're going to barely make a play-in seed and then play what? The number 1 seed, play Oklahoma City? It's not going to happen.
It's 3 years, including this season, and this season feels like it's a wrap.
Right?
This season, you're blown. Now you're talking about going into next year where AD is a year older, Kyrie is a year older.
If Kyrie's still on the team, do that part.
I mean, I think Kyrie stays there. I think Kyrie now has huge leverage over the Mavericks, and he can hold their feet to the fire on a new deal. So I do think you're skeptical. You think Kyrie's going to go to Lakers?
I mean, look, I think like when you're doing odds, the highest likelihood is that Kyrie stays.
Yeah.
Sure, I do not know if it's an over 50% chance.
Really?
Well, here's what I think that Kyrie has loyalty to the Mavericks because did I just say Lakers? I meant Mavericks.
Mavericks, yeah.
Yes. That Kyrie has loyalty to the Mavericks because of them betting on him when a lot of other teams didn't want to. Even given that, he still shopped himself around that following summer. So the Mavericks traded for him at a time when everyone said they were crazy. They gave up a bunch of assets for him when he was going to be a free agent that summer. You could not have believed in Kyrie more than Dallas believed in him at that moment when nobody else did. And he still went and looked for another deal that summer. So do I think that he has an affinity for Dallas, wants to stay there, has his family there? Yes, I think all of that's important to him. He also just watched the organization trade away its cornerstone. He knows what the back half or the end of his career will look like with Anthony Davis being there instead of Luka. Do I think he's going to look around this summer? Yeah, I think he is. And by the way, I think he should, right? I mean, these guys, again, have been demonstrated over and over again. We'll get rid of anyone, right? There's no loyalty.
I just think he's got huge leverage to get a big contract. And I think I don't know if he has that leverage anywhere else.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I mean, think about where he could go. Like, he's not going back to Brooklyn. Like,
No.
Detroit's not really an option.
Correct.
Houston,
No, I don't think they're. I don't think they're
I
bringing
mean,
him in.
I think, like, could he sign and force a deal at some point, like maybe I think that's more
I just think he's in a better position than he was the last time he was a free agent.
Oh yeah,
I think his
last time
reputation
he was in an awful position.
Right. I think his reputation off the court has been rehabilitated.
Yes.
I think that obviously on the court he has shown what he still has. I just think that it's not going to be a slam dunk about them keeping them. I think it's the most likely thing that they keep him. But even if they keep him, he has his own injury issues as he's aging.
Yeah.
It's just perplexing. It remains perplexing, Chris Mannix.
Last thing, Mark Stein, very plugged in down in Dallas. He reported that Mark Cuban tried to talk the Mavericks out of it at the 11th hour, but there was already a handshake deal. That doesn't surprise me at all. Like there is no way Cuban does that deal. And I love the clip of him talking to, what was it? Who was he talking? Bill Gates.
Yes.
Where he makes the comparison to Bill Gates leaving Microsoft and then Steve Jobs trading Microsoft 11,
Yes.
the new fancy software, for Microsoft 10, the older but still Hall of Fame software. Cuban put some thought into that one.
Yes, he
I give
did.
him that. But like, it doesn't surprise me at all that Mark Cuban reportedly wanted to just veto this deal from his 30% ownership perch that he was sitting on.
If you're Mark, I mean, it's got to be such a strange feeling because not only have you left this team, which I'm sure was an emotional decision to give away majority ownership, no one was more involved in sort of the day-to-day emotion and heartbeat of their team as an NBA owner than Mark. And he did so much to rehabilitate the Mavericks. You and I remember when he bought that franchise, the state it was in, no player wanted to go there. No one wanted to be there. What he did to change sort of from the little things like the locker rooms, right? And wanting players
Team planes,
to feel
he made them
team
cool for a while. Yeah.
Right? All the different things that he did to build the franchise, the mistakes he made along the way that he then tried to rectify through the Luka arrangement and everything else. And to see all of that wiped out, we're talking about the fans and the protests that they had in front of the arena. Mark Stein and I were talking last night, and there was no one more plugged in Dallas. And he was like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, if they win a championship with this team, I still don't think a lot of fans are going to forgive them. And to have Mark, who invested so much of his heart, soul, time, years of his life, time away from his family, into not just this franchise and whether they won a championship or not, but building them up as a team and part of the community and an entity and a place in the NBA they didn't have when he bought it. And now it's just been wiped away with the stroke of a pen. It's just, it's fascinating how fragile all this stuff turns out to be.
Mark Cuban set them up pretty well. He brought the team a championship. He kept Dirk Nowitzki in a Mavs uniform for 20 plus years. And he, through some luck, brought in the next face of the franchise. And now all that goodwill is gone there. So I can understand the frustration of Mark Cuban.